Okay, so we're here with internationally recognised author Hugh Howey, duly so as well. So thank you for coming in today, Hugh.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.
And so first up, just tell us a little bit about Wool and Shift, because they're both kind of connected, aren't they?
Yeah. So Wool is this post-apocalyptic dystopia. This story where all of humanity lives in this underground silo, and they've lived there so long they don't even remember mankind having lived elsewhere. So they have this one view of the outside world through this big wall screen up top, and they can see a city over the hill. But exactly, and they have no idea, that that's where people came from. Shift goes back and tells the story of how all this came to be, how the silos were built, how the world fell apart. So the great thing is, you read them in the order they were published. So you've read Wool, and you've read the story of Juliet, becoming sheriff and all that. And then with Shift, you get to watch it all unfold, knowing what's going to happen, and there's no way to stop it.
Adds context, ties up loose ends. It's great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading it. And so you were a bookseller obviously while you were writing it.
Yeah.
And it's been noted that you were engaged in some very considerable dialogue with the readers while you were writing it. Was this like a conscious decision to, obviously to sell books or to give the readers what they wanted? What was your thought process in doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. My thought process makes it sound like I knew what I was doing, but it's funny, you think that when someone has a lot of success, they plan this out and they had some kind of vision and they executed it. In my case, I was just stumbling along the whole time. I was working in a bookstore and writing novels on the side. So I had a young adult series that was doing okay. And Wool was just a short story that I threw up online, and the response to it was so amazing. I started getting all these reviews and emails from people all over the world, and they just wanted more in the series. So the way I think about it is, usually you write a book like a musician records an album. You go into a studio, you're locked off, and you come out with the whole track, the whole album, and that's how we usually produce books. Instead, with this, because I released these 5 books serially, it was like playing on a stage to a live audience, and I could, and I could see them go crazy for this story and be like, okay, that's what they like.
That works.
Yeah,
we'll put in more of that.
Exactly, and also it wasn't always just giving them what they wanted; it was seeing what they anticipated and doing the opposite thing. Okay. And now when people read it, they say, "Oh my God, I don't see any of this coming," but it all follows logically.
Of course.
And a lot of that's people emailing me and saying, "Oh, so this is what's going to happen next," and I'll think, "Oh, I'm going to disappoint you."
Yeah, because I guess an author's job is to challenge their audience. If you just give them what they expect, then it's going to be boring.
Yeah,
so,
and a lot of times people think they want something, but if you gave that to them, they wouldn't enjoy it. Yeah, they really want to have that angst and that discomfort, and
that's a very interesting way to look at it. And so the science fiction genre, it's almost exploded in recent times, especially post-apocalyptic. Maybe my thoughts is that it's got great contemporary relevance. You feel that these events in Wool, however dystopian they are, could actually be happening, or they could happen in the future, and it raises a lot of moral questions about truth and the muddying of the waters, so to speak. And was this kind of moral aspect of it important to you while you were writing it? Did you set out to kind of highlight these concerns?
Oh, absolutely. Every one of my books revolves around either a philosophical or an ethical concern, and I read mostly nonfiction in my spare time, and my books are informed by those, my own studies. So with Wool, I was really looking at the challenge of hoping that the world is a better place than what we're presented, by 24-hour news. That's what the wall screen really represents, is a limited view of the world, and it's a bad view of the world. And what does that do for people's sense of ambition and drive to go out and explore? You're saying how science fiction has really gotten more popular.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
Well, I think some of it, and this is just my own guess, we're becoming so much more comfortable with technology. And so the people who used to say, I don't like science fiction because it's nothing but gadgets, those people are just living with gadgets.
Yeah, they're seeing the gadgets every day.
The Star Trek communicator used to be like, what's he doing? And I was like, why does he have a flip phone? Mine's a smartphone. Exactly. Does so much more. Like, where's their iPad mini? They can do so much more. So we've almost outstripped science fiction with the technology that we now live with.
So do you see your job is to kind of keep pushing those boundaries and offer new things that...
I think it's to offer some kind of an escape in a fantastical world. And as our world becomes more surreal, you have to go beyond that to find something that people would say, oh, that's something I could see happening. Otherwise, you're telling them, oh, that's already happened, you know?
Yeah. And so the part of the great success of the book, I thought, when in my reading, was the great characters. I loved them. You know, they're rich, they're well developed, they're multifaceted. Was just out of interest, with these characters, they were so well thought out. Were they based on anybody that you knew? Because it kind of seemed like they could be somebody that you knew.
Yeah, I don't know where characters come from. I've really, a question I get a lot, so I've tried to analyze it in my spare time. Like, well, how does this process work? I think a lot of yourself goes into every character. You know your inner thoughts, so and your inner demons and the things that you hope are good about you that are true. You know, your nice qualities, and you either exaggerate or diminish some mixture of those to create your characters. You also not just borrow from people you know, but from all the fictional characters you've ever encountered. There's certain tropes, you know, certain cliches, and you toy with those. Sometimes you buck against them, sometimes you fulfill them for the reader. The best analogy I've found, because they seem to occur to you all at once, these characters. It's almost like living in this crowded street, and your character will just pop out of the crowd, fully formed, with like a history, a personality, a look.
You think and that's the one.
Yeah, and you just have to describe them. They're already there. It just seems to happen. Maybe, I don't know if writers are just a little bit crazy or something. Fictional people just occur to them like that.
It's certainly good. Anyway. And so, just finally, the title. Well, I'm sure you get asked this a lot. I wondered where the title actually came from, because the most obvious metaphor is the wool pads that they use to scrub the lens, and maybe wool being pulled over someone's eyes or something. But what was your? Because it's a pretty ambiguous title.
Yeah.
Where did that come from for you?
Well, you nailed the two for the original ones from that first short story. So the wool pads, because that first short story is just about like Halston going out to clean, and so the wool is just about the pads, because the cleaning was the center of that story. And
of course, did you write that first novella with that was it?
That was it. That was the whole story.
Go further.
No, the rest of the story didn't exist yet.
Sure.
So it was just the wool pads, but also if you think about how the story ends, there's kind of a hint in the title about having the wool pulled over your eyes, and it really should, when you finish that first story, if you just think about the title, then it should really be like, this is what he meant. The reason I stuck with the title as I expanded the story is I already had at that point a lot of readers and a lot of visibility, and I think it would have been a bad move to strip that title away and replace it with something. You know, like
keep something recognizable.
Yeah, exactly. And it worked because it's so odd. You know.
Yeah, you certainly remember it because you think wool, that said about sheep.
It's been huge with knitters. I'm not kidding. Like a lot of knitters have picked it up and then fallen in love with the story and then told their knitting group.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Hugh Howey.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks.
Appreciate the questions.
It was great. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.